Hey guys, how you doing? It's David Lucas here. Welcome back. And today we're going to be reviewing Star Wars: Attack of the Clones, Episode 2. Now this one, oh god, this is my least favorite Star Wars movie out of all the movies. Yeah, it's probably there as my least. I really have a hard time getting through this movie. I watch it the least out of all the Star Wars movies, and yeah, it really is my least favorite out of all of it. Directed and written by George Lucas yet again. Hayden Christensen this time as Anakin Skywalker. Basically, my first bad thing about this movie is the introduction of the Jedi. They just completely make them really not have any personalities. Jedi can't love, they can't be in relationships, they can't have children. So much of these codes to the Jedi, and in a way, it's kind of good because you kind of see that, oh, so this is why the Jedi start to become bad, why people don't like the Jedi starting from the originals and all that. The way how they just show the Jedi and they don't explain it as much, and it just shows the Jedi like this, and it doesn't really help our just assholes, basically. It wasn't what we thought the Jedi were. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. That depends on how you view it. Me, personally, I just didn't like how they executed. I thought they executed it poorly, and that's a lot of the problem. It was just the execution of a lot of things. It was really poorly executed, and it really drags the movie down a lot. It makes the movie really hard to watch, I feel like. Another thing about this movie that really isn't too good, that there's no antagonist really throughout this movie. There's mentioned in the beginning of it, there's a bad guy who is Count Dooku. The Jedi are saying that Count Dooku is not capable of killing anyone, is not his nature because he used to be a Jedi. That doesn't make any sense, because if he used to be a Jedi, he obviously doesn't follow the Jedi Order anymore, or the Jedi Code. So what's stopping him from trying to assassinate a senator? Isn't it the whole point for him to be different and betray the Jedi to be evil? Isn't that the point? So, of course he would try to assassinate her. It doesn't make sense. It leads on to my other reason that the Jedi just don't make sense. They don't really flesh them out as much. They don't really show more character development or anything to the Jedi. They make them just almost dumb and stupid and assholes. Mace Windu in here really bothers me. They don't really write him good. I actually liked him better in The Phantom Menace. Okay, he's not as good as they wrote him, but I can see what they're trying to do with him. A lifeless person, it almost seems like. What it kind of seems, that he's almost lifeless, and you could tell that Samuel Jackson is just foaming in the role. Like, you can even tell in his performance, he's like, yeah, these lines are horrible. And he's just phoning it in, basically. You can tell. This doesn't really work. I just think like he doesn't work for this movie. Maybe a different actor work, or maybe if just they would write Mace Windu differently, it would work better. I don't know, but he just didn't work in this movie for me at all. You don't really feel the brotherhood relationship in this. The brotherhood between Anakin and Obi-Wan. In here, you mostly see Obi-Wan and Anakin bickering. Anakin basically whining about Obi-Wan a lot in here. And you don't see that brother friendship that old Obi-Wan talked about in A New Hope to Luke. Oh, he was a great friend. He was a powerful Jedi and all that stuff. You don't see that in here. You don't at all. It's look at it and you're like, how is Anakin a good friend? They're constantly arguing. Obi-Wan is constantly degraded Anakin. Anakin is constantly complaining how Obi-Wan is holding him back. You don't see that, brother. You don't see that friendship that they talk about they had. He said he was a great friend in The New Hope. And you don't see that. You just don't see it. And I don't get it. And it really bothers me and it irks me because George Lucas is the guy who wrote this. And he should know that he already established this in The New Hope. And then he's changing it in Attack of the Clones. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. Oh my god. Oh, the dialogue in this movie is... it's so bad. There's some love scenes with Anakin and Padme when it's supposed to be a serious kind of scene, character development scene, and Anakin goes, I hate sand. It's rough and coarse and irritating. Gets everywhere. I don't really get why George would write that horrible dialogue in that scene. It was supposed to be a character development scene, and it's just written so bad, and on top of that, Hayden Christensen just performs it so horribly. That's one thing, too, about this movie that I just can't stand. You go from Jake Lloyd, who's a really bad child actor. No offense to him. I know he was given a horrible script and a horrible direction. It probably wasn't his fault what his performance was in the first one. But you go from him, and then you go from someone probably even worse to Hayden Christensen in here. And he is just such a bad actor. There's some scenes in here where you're supposed to be feeling the darkness within inside Anakin. The darkness building up, but you're supposed to see that Anakin is trying to be a good Jedi. And to be a strong, good Jedi that he's supposed to be. But you're seeing that he just is getting fed and more fed up with it. You don't see that. What you see in here is him crying and complaining and throwing stuff. He sat there and complained about killing sand people, and all their families' performance is so bad. It is such a bad performance in there, and it just doesn't work, because then you see Padme holding him, comforting him after he just confessed that he's killed people and killed families. And she's okay with that. And she's completely fine with that. And also, let's not forget about the creepy stares that he constantly gives Padme. Like, seriously, look back at the movie. He gives her these creepy, weird stares that are stalkerish. And I feel like any girl will look at them and be like, okay, stop looking at that. There's actually a scene in the movie. There actually is a scene in the movie where she goes, please don't look at me like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And you can kind of see it in Natalie Portman's performance that she felt actually uncomfortable by that stare. And I feel like a lot of people would. It's really weird how he stares at her. One of my very big gripes about this movie is that you see a scene leading up to his mother dying. And that's actually one of Hayden Christensen's, I think, best performances in this movie, is how he felt and his emotion after his mother died. And is leading up to that good scene, is building up to, oh my god, we're about to see him unleash the Vader. We're about to see him unleash that anger. Then you don't. It cuts away from that. And you don't see it at all. Like, what? Like, you're leading this up to this awesome scene. We're about to finally see the Vader inside of him. And you completely cut away from it? And you don't show it at all? Why don't you show that? That would have been a great scene to show. It would have been a perfect scene to show. So one of the last things that I just can't stand about this movie is that final lightsaber battle. Oh my god, this is probably one of the worst lightsaber battles, I think, in any Star Wars movie. It is so horribly choreographed. You can totally see Count Dooku's stunt double in here. It looks so bad. And for some reason, Yoda is flipping all around everywhere. He was just using a cane 5 seconds ago. Now he's flipping all around everywhere? Like, why? That doesn't make sense at all. It really doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all that he's flipping all around here, especially in Empire Strikes Back when he told Luke that size doesn't matter. But yet you're seeing Yoda flipping all around, being so crazy, flipping all around, powerful and all that, when he was just, he wasn't presented like that in the first place. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. With a lot of this movie, it just does not make sense at all. Especially the title. The title of this movie doesn't make sense. Attack of the Clones, but yet we only see the clones until the very, very end for 10 minutes. And the whole title is Attack of the Clones? I don't know. With the bad things of this movie, there are some good things about this movie. There are some redeeming qualities, especially more redeeming qualities that I noticed looking back at this movie, just recently watching it. And one of the good things that is really good about this movie is Palpatine. I like how they show Palpatine in the very beginning. He looks a little bit more older. He looks a little bit more paler. And you can see that he is starting to get more powerful in the Senate and in the whole Republic in general. Jedi are starting to get a little more curious about him, a little more skeptical about him, not knowing what his real game is. Give Jar Jar a little better role. I mean, some people may not like this about Jar Jar, But I actually like this part of Jar Jar, that they show him basically giving the emergency powers to Palpatine. Jar Jar is the reason why, basically, the Jedi were killed. Why the Republic turned into the Empire. It's because he's the one who gave Palpatine emergency powers. And that's actually pretty awesome, in my opinion. And it's kind of, I actually like that. I like that part of Jar Jar. I actually thought that was a great put up in Jar Jar. I liked it a lot. Minus the ending with Yoda. Minus that whole ending with him flipping around. We're first introduced to him in here. You could tell he's still this wise Yoda, Jedi Master. It's awesome until that final scene with him flipping around. Then it's just all ruined. It is a lot of CGI in this, and it does get bad at times. But most of the time, actually, it's really good. And I think they use some actually on-set locations, too, in Italy. For Naboo, I think. Yeah, it was Naboo that they used it for real on-site sites for in Italy. And they did integrate some CGI with that stuff, and it does actually look pretty good. And for the most part, there's some bad CGI in there, but for the most part, I think it does actually look pretty well good. Another thing that I do like about this is that you see a little bit more of the city landscape of the actual galaxy. Like, you see Dexter's Diner, and I actually like that Dexter dude. Four-armed alien guy that Obi-Wan meets. I like that guy. Some people don't like him, actually, but I like him. I think he actually is a pretty interesting character, and I like seeing a diner location in Star Wars, in the Star Wars universe, where, you know, people might eat. I like it. I kind of like when they bring in real-world aspects to the Star Wars galaxy, but change it to make it more Star Wars-y. And I love it when they do that. That's some of my favorite things that they do. Some of my favorite things about Rogue One. Really great scene, I think, in this movie. It's really more of a scene rather than a whole overall thing, but just the scene of it when you see the introduction of the clone troopers, when Obi-Wan first sees the clones and he looks up at them and he sees them basically creating a really cool foreshadowing of what's yet to come of the Empire with the stormtroopers, and I really like that. I think it was a really well-directed scene, actually. They're one of the only good, well-directed scenes in here, I think. Speaking of clones, I loved, actually, the battle between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan. I thought actually was pretty good, despite there are some issues with it. Obi-Wan is not hurt at all when he's getting exploded and thrown around. There's some cheesy lines in there, like when he goes, "Oh, not good." But other than that, it's actually a pretty good scene, I think. Pretty entertaining. I actually like watching it, and I think Jango Fett is actually a pretty interesting character. It's sad that he's killed off so quickly in this movie, but I think he is actually a pretty interesting character. The best thing out of all of this movie is the Battle of Geonosis. I absolutely love the Battle of Geonosis. I think it's a cool Saving Private Ryan type scene in there a little bit. It's a really cool war scene, I think, that George Lucas directed. And it just is awesome. Minus the little CGI droids, the whole scene is awesome. Awesome war scene. Probably one of the best war scenes in any Star Wars movies. The Battle of Geonosis, I think, is great. And the Jedi fighting, that's awesome. That's something I've always wanted to see, is all the Jedi together fighting and all stuff. When we get that, we actually get that in this movie, which is surprising out of the movie's not that good. We actually get one of the best scenes that I've been always wanted to see, was the Jedi all together fighting, and we get that. Sadly, they're not all fighting Sith, but maybe for future movies we'll see that. Final scoring of this movie, I have to give it one more down lower than a Phantom Menace. Pretty close by each other, but at the end of the day, I think Phantom Menace is just a slight bit better. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, 4 out of 10. Best I can give this movie. It's really a disappointment to me. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie. It does have a lot of redeeming qualities, and more than I thought from the last time I seen it. It's all together. It's just a pretty disappointing movie. Thank you guys for all watching. Make sure you guys like this, comment, subscribe if you like it and want to see more. I'll always be posting more. Revenge of the Sith will be coming up next, so stay tuned for that.